the last segment of the reaction and rant stream, and this one's a bit of a spicier topic, near and dear to my heart. And we're going to be starting off with a video from the good old Salty Mike, and it's a reaction video, so we're doing a bit of reactionception, but I think you guys will understand. I'm not going to talk too much about it. I think you guys will understand why I'm reacting to this one. It is a month-old video though, but there's some posts recently that have come up that I think warrants reacting to it. Man, I'm covering up bloody mics, bloody chat. Oh, they're not saying anything important anyway. My chat's more important. Alright, so this is Piracy and Star Citizen is supposed to be hard. And I believe this video is based on a reaction that Mike had to somebody else's talking about Piracy. I don't know. Pre-watch the video. I've actually watched this and I kind of tuned out a little bit during it. So hopefully that doesn't happen again. Let's watch.
Because this is something that I really want to get across. I believe I'll probably post this next. The discussion around Piracy and Star Citizen is a really interesting one, and I completely missed a very, very important part of the conversation. Okay, and it's very, very important. And I didn't completely miss it in the react that we did to the last video, right? From, I think, Oddjob was the channel name. And it was really, 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 really good video. And it's not the NPC ratio thing. It's that nobody is trying to make piracy easier. If anything, every single pirate I've had conversations with, they want piracy to be harder, dragging this out to hit monetization requirements. I've actually never done that, to be honest. Maybe a few times, but like my guides are really short and people were praising that they were and stuff like that, so I'm gonna keep it that way. The issue in question around piracy is interdiction. Interdiction is you require a website to put yourself in the right place to get the most lucky and come across the most people to interdict.
You don't need a website to do that. The website makes it easier, but you don't need it. We were doing interdiction operations against players for a long time before we even had Snare Plan. I will say this, Snare Plan is a great tool. It is sad that we have to go to a third-party platform to utilize this tool. You would think that CIG would build this into the game, but the fact of the matter is that you don't need the website. It just makes it more accessible to more players. And it took us years to get through to other players that you could actually do this. And Team Dollars creating Snare Plan, it was a huge win for the community, really. Like, credit's given where credit's due. They did a really good job creating this platform. They've done a really good job keeping it updated, expanding the features. If you want to know what it is, that's it right there. Snare Plan, dropped it there for you. You go check it out. It helps you work out whether or not your interdiction path is viable or not. Back in my day when we fucking first got the Mantis, you didn't get this fucking fancy tool. You had to use trigonometry to work out where you set up your snare, and you were fucking lucky if you got somebody. You can do it without using the third-party platform. Even some of the more trickier, snare setups. It just comes down to having a greater understanding of the game, greater understanding of the mechanics, and, going out there and trying things and thinking through how you'd actually achieve the goal that you want to achieve. Like most things in Star Citizen.
If they're actually going down those lanes at all, right? So yeah, you have to use a website called Snare Plan. It's ridiculous. It shouldn't be that way. That was the conversation really around the Oddjob video, right? Is that aspect of piracy is ridiculous and stupid, and it just should be better. It should be easier. What that means is up to the developers, okay? That aspect should be easier. What should not be easier is just generally being a pirate living in Stanton. That's crazy that they just get to hang out, right? Why, right? They just get to hang out like nothing's happening.
What's wrong with that? They want us to hang out in Stanton there. We're people too. We're all right, honest. Like, we play the bad guys, but we're not bad guys. Memeing aside, the problem here is the lack of reputation or persistent reputation for players who are criminals in the game. We're just misunderstood. That's right. Anta knows what's going on. Listen to Anta. Hello, Anta. Stanton doesn't equal terror. Yeah, it's not a safe zone, but you'd think like if you built up a reputation for being a pirate that you'd have to be a bit more cautious when flying around places like Everest Harbour, Port Tressler, Seraphim Station or Bygenie Point, as opposed to what we can do now. As long as we don't have a crime stat, we can just go cruising on by, go to an outpost, hang out, watch a cargo hauler load up their ship. Problem is that there's mechanics missing, and that's why it is the way that it is right now. Like reputation is one of them. The ability to hide your identity is another mechanic that's missing. Whether or not they still plan on doing it is another thing, because Chris Roberts talked about that over a decade ago. Yeah, like so far with what Mike's talking about is like there's different concepts of difficulty when it comes to doing something in a video game. The day-to-day life of a pirate, how difficult should that be versus, you know, the piracy encounter versus finding a target to pirate. You're right, Seraphim, and I'm hoping that Stanton becomes a bit more restrictive to criminal players from the perspective that you need to play smarter. If you are a criminal in Stanton, it's because you're smarter about the way that you play the game. And I guarantee that there are still going to be the players there. At the start of the stream, when we're talking about the pyro stuff, like we showcased, you know, like we showed people complaining about the risks of pyro and why would people want to go to pyro. You know, it's too much risk. You know, that's what it boiled down to. And it's like, well, then don't fucking go. You aren't willing to take the risk, don't go. But as we know, the anti-PvP, the militant Care Bears, are trying everything that they can do to stop us from being able to, you know, like have our spaces. They want to invade it all. We're going to fight against that. I think for Stanton, like, there's a few things that are going to happen when we get server meshing, where part of it will self-regulate player activity, but the other part of it still needs CIG's intervention, which is why I believe that they need reputation to be more comprehensive when we get server meshing than, you know, like secret identities and things like that. The distances between the different stations as well, and hopefully factional warfare matters more in Pyro and being in with the right faction. But we'll have to wait and see. Yeah, identity spoofing will be a thing. I don't think it's going to be as important when we get server meshing if CIG focused on just reputation that persists a bit longer.
The other issue, and this is what I did address, is that we keep looking at this as if the game is Elite Dangerous or EVE Online, and that there's thousands of possible trade lanes, and that some of them are going to be risky. But in the current game, if we ever do get server meshing, and let's say they solve that 800 player test issue. If there are 800 players in an individual server and 50 of them are pirates, you're going to run into pirates way more often than you do now, and it's probably not going to be that good of an experience for people, right? The other aspect that was not mentioned in that...
I'm just going to pause there. Pirates have this problem already, like where we're encountering other pirates more frequently. Like we'll be joining on servers and we're finding less targets and more pirates. And for us, we just fight the other pirate crew because that's what you do. Like we're there to fight. You know, we want cargo. If there's limited cargo and other pirates around, we'll fight them for the cargo because it's part of the game. Part of the fun. The problem though is that if you're like not the pirate and you're the Care Bear, you're pretty much going to get, you know, attacked by a pirate. Like the likelihood of being attacked by a pirate increases, right? In the current systems, yeah, like that's the case. In the server meshed environment, the amount of pirates that play this game still pales in comparison to everyone else. Server meshed environment is the reckoning of pirate crews. It'll take a while to gain momentum, but once all those bloody lawful organizations and Care Bear orgs, you know, realize that they can band together and they can just start shitting on pirates, they'll start doing it. They will start doing it. It's only the ones who are smart enough and have the will to survive. They'll be the ones that will still be around once the dust settles. Yeah, we're already dealing with this particular scenario already, especially when there's less targets getting around. CIG needs to stop banning all the dupers so that we have people to fucking pirate. God.
And that I made lots and lots and lots of comments about, but I don't think anybody will see them because nobody really goes to the comment section on YouTube, is there should be risky trade runs and trade lanes, in my opinion, and there should be non-risky ones. And the non-risky ones should obviously make less money than the risky ones. What does a risky trade lane mean? What does it look like? I have no idea what these guys will do. Is it a NPC attack? Are you going to get interdicted more often? How does it involve with player interaction? I have no clue. I really do not. And I don't think it's our place to make decisions on what it should look like. But I think it's very clear that the PvP or the piracy versus trader conversation, it is always hyper focused on the pirate finding the trader, but it never really explains that there should be enough trade lanes that aren't risky or ways around the risky ones that are just longer.
So the problem is that when these discussions happen, it's always an attack against pirates. You know, like, you guys are griefers, you guys are, you know, ruining the game. And there are plenty, psychopaths, sociopaths, all that sort of stuff. And the players who are making these complaints, who have these pirate encounters, pirates going to the bloody locations where the cheap commodities are, because that's where most players are not going. Pirates go where the targets are. And, you know, CIG's already indicated how they, you know, want to try and structure the economic environment through quantum, or whatever the fuck they're going to call it next, star something, you know, where they go through the process of manufacturers putting in buy orders for raw materials, all the resource collectors, mine salvages, whatever it is, going to that location to collect the raw materials to take to the manufacturers, pirates showing up to take those raw materials and sell it somewhere else, security responding to the pirate presence and, you know, trying to push the pirates out, resource collectors depleting the resources of that area, and or the manufacturer finally being able to fulfill their orders and then moving on. And then the resource collectors move on to the next thing, and the process rinse and repeats in multiple locations. The most riskiest trade lanes are going to be risky because they have the most valuable commodities being moved through them. That's what the most risky trade lanes will be. Now, the problem that we have in Star Citizen is that when players want to make credits, they are going to do the thing that makes them the most amount of credits, especially when there's an exploit that can make them more credits. Why we saw this huge influx of players running RMC. It was gangbusters. I've pointed this out plenty of times on Spectrum too. Whenever there's a bug or an exploit where players are able to make credits through cargo hauling, we see an uptick in piracy activity because there's an uptick in supply for people being able to make lots of credits, right? Like, that's just the way that it is. So the trade lanes that will end up being the most risky are going to be the ones that have the most valuable commodities moving through them. It's as simple as that. Now, CIG is going to have to do something about the interdiction mechanics, because eventually it'll come to a point where players will, if piracy increases enough to a point that players taking a trade route are wary of it, they'll just dogleg their jumps, take a little bit longer, but still get to their destination. And if a cargo hauler doglegs their jump from start to end location, we can't do anything about it at all. You can't stop them from doglegging their jump unless you hit them early enough. And then the tactics change for the pirates, right? The tactics will change, and this is one of the reasons why pirates are still attacking cargo haulers at the start or end locations. It's because interdicting players is too unpredictable. There's no way, like as Seraphim's, he wants long-range scanning. 100%, we all do. Long-range scanning is going to be essential to us so that we can see things that are so far away, so we don't have to fucking go there and look with our eyeballs. But the point about interdicting cargo haulers is that enough players, if they keep doing it, doglegging their jumps, like, we'll have to change our tactics to adjust to that and nullify that capability. It's always going to be this cat and mouse game. The only real way that you can deal with that is by having a security presence. You know, and this was one of the things that I talked about and brings up too. So, you know, like, he's of the same mindset here, that trade lanes are patrolled by security. And that's how you encourage cargo haulers to take the most direct route between a start and end location. That there'll be security forces setting up interdiction points, and they'll pull you over and scan your ship, make sure you're not carrying contraband or anything like that. But there'll also be security taking those same travel routes. And if you get interdicted by pirates, security shows up. as well, not long afterwards. So I've always maintained that cargo haulers need the ability to put out a distress call that's more than just typing in chat, hey, I need help, I'm over here. A beacon. We kind of had beacons, but nobody really took them, and pirates could pick them up. Once again, reputation matters, and that's something that reputation should impact. You know, if you want to be able to pick up beacons, you should have a good reputation for it. The difficulty of a piracy encounter comes from the resistance that we encounter during the hit. That is what makes it difficult for us. And then the next part that makes a piracy encounter difficult for us is transporting the goods that we've taken from someone and take it to wherever we're going to sell it. There's 2 stages of it. Technically there should be 3, because general travel as a known pirate should be difficult in a policed system. But in a piracy encounter, finding a target should not be the hardest part. It should be like stopping them and taking their stuff. But that's something that a lot of players don't seem to accept. That I've said this for many years now. The target makes a piracy encounter as difficult or as easy for us. The target, the person that we're pirating, is a contributing factor to how difficult a piracy encounter is for us. So if they're by themselves and they're in their bloody starter suit with no weapon, of course we're going to fucking steamroll them. We're in a group of 6 decked out with FPS gear, QED, and combat meta ships. So yeah, we should win the encounter because we came prepared and they fucking didn't. You know, I made a Spectrum post about this years ago. The reason why players lose those sorts of encounters is because they don't prepare for them. And if you're not willing to prepare to the same level as what the pirates are, then you have to accept the fact that if you have a piracy encounter, you're going to lose. Now, piracy encounters for most players, like there are players that have been playing for years and never had a pirate encounter. They've done cargo hauling, mining, salvaging, never seen a pirate. And then there's other players, you know, who apparently encounter a pirate every 5 minutes. The moment that they're leaving their hab, they're encountering pirates and having to fight their way to their ship. That's if you believe Spectrum. I'm going to continue on this video because this is a subject I can go on for hours and I can't stay out for too much longer.
That pirates won't sit at or can't sit at because it's too risky for them. Does that make sense? So the only thing that I can think of is that the risky trades and the risky trade lanes will be locations in Pyro and getting to the Pyro jump gate. But once you're kind of through the Pyro jump gate, you're safe. But what does that mean? Like, we're in a very weird situation where there's monitored space and there's unmonitored space. Should there be more monitored space in Stanton? Because in unmonitored space, pirates just sit there and nobody can see that they're there and things like that. I don't know what the answers are, but I do want to just put out the clear and present issues.
So I've got to take, I've expressed this plenty of times before. If you've been following me when I've done these sorts of rants or, you know, streaming and all that sort of stuff, this is one of the takes that I've always had when it's come to Pyro versus Stanton. Stanton is to pirates, which is what Pyro is to traders. And what I mean is that risk versus reward. The riskier trade lanes for traders is going to be in Pyro because of the pirates that are supposed to be there, right? But that's where the most profitable trade lanes are supposed to be, right? Well, Stanton for pirates is also very profitable but risky. And I've pointed this out plenty of times now. Stanton has all the manufactured goods that Pyro needs. Pyro has a lot of raw resources that Stanton wants. So doing piracy in Stanton has the potential of being very profitable. Going after those manufactured goods in Stanton, you know, to me, that's the juice is worth the squeeze, right? But the risk that you're taking is that you're in a system where you could get put in prison and taken out of the gameplay loop. There is security around. Eventually they will be actively hunting for you if you generate enough noise. I'll say this is that a lot of players who are hoping that pirates will just go to Pyro and leave them alone in Stanton, they won't encounter as many pirates in Stanton, but the ones that they do encounter there are going to be fucking way, way worse. Because we need to be smarter, and we probably will need to be more ruthless than the ones in Pyro. Because we have to get in there, grab the stuff, get the fuck out. No negotiations, don't have time for it. Taking it all, fight back or die. One of the reasons why we're doing the red flag, we're preparing for that sort of inevitability. And what I think you'll find with the PMCs is that they'll be more employed in systems like Pyro than Stanton. Yeah, something that a lot of players don't think. Well, I think that's just it, Red Bear. Like, if you hit a ship like a whole D, like, that's a big endeavor. Like, that's a big effort right there. And you're not going to be doing it with like a crew of 4. like hitting in a whole E. Like, you may end up letting certain ships just go past because they're just too big and the stuff that they're carrying, not worth the time. But, you know, like, we may need whole Cs. Correction, we may need some C2s that this whole D is carrying. So it's like, all right, well, we're going to hit the whole D and we're going to take that stuff from it. Few ironclads for sure, yeah. The other side of it is that we're playing a video game. I will do things for the sake of the challenge. So if I see like a javelin there and I think we can take it, we'll go after it. We'll go it. We'll give it a crack. Red Bear, we don't ask for money, we demand it. We're pirates. We don't say please. We take.
The clear and present issues are every trade lane could be dangerous, but the Stanton system, and even if we have Stanton and Pyro, if we ever end up in a server mesh situation, that is not enough systems. Guys, even if we end up in a release 1.0 scenario, how many star systems do you think are going to be in a 1.0 scenario? 5? 10? Is that enough combinations of jumps and trade lanes for the cargo haulers have an option to enjoy their game and the pirates have an option to enjoy their game without over encroaching? There's got to be a balance, right? And the balance isn't 50-50. So there's like a big problem here that needs to be figured out. So I don't know what the answer is, but the problem is that pirates live way too simply in what would be considered a relatively safe system like Stanton, right? And if we get more players in a server, pirates are going to legitimately become a problem because of that. And there's no real way to determine what a safer trade lane is versus a non-safe trade lane, other than if a commodity is worth less, it'll be pirated less or something like that. It's an interesting situation to discuss. I don't think I have any of the answers. I think I could just see the problems.
That's because he's only looking at the problems. Like, this already happens. Like, we don't go hunting for players who are moving things like fluorine. We'll go hunting for players who are moving things like gold, beryl, diamonds, RMC, construction materials. The things that are worth something, things that players want to trade frequently. There's something that a lot of people seem to forget, CIG understands this, is that there's a point where pirates will have to go, the juice is not worth the squeeze, and go, this trade lane is too hot for us to work now. We have to go find another one. You see, a risky trade lane is one that is not considered safe. A safe trade lane is one that has security patrolling it, that is trafficked by enough people that if you get interdicted by pirates, that you'll get somebody showing up within minutes to help you. But that's not built into the game yet. As I said before, there will be a point where us pirates will have to sit there and we'll just be like, yeah, there's too many security forces patrolling this trade route. It's a really good RMC trade, but there's too much security there. We keep ending up in these fights where we're outnumbered and we have to leave. Like repairing ships, and this is one of the reasons why, I created the Mongrel Horde, raise the pack rats, raise the cartel, raise the Mongrel auxiliaries. I recognize that we need certain capabilities in Stanton when CIG starts bringing in things like reputation, where CIG starts limiting what we can access. Could you imagine of having a reputation as a criminal and CIG makes it so that you can't repair, rearm, or refuel at any place other than Grimhex? Imagine the outcry that would happen, but that's more than likely what's going to happen when we get Pyro. And the reality is that freedom of movement can be shaped by that reputation system. Like, the profitable trade routes currently are over at Hurston and Microtech, unless we're going after salvages in the belt of Ela. If we can't repair, rearm, and refuel over that side of the system, and we have to keep going back to Crusader, the Grim Hex to do it, the way that we act, the way that we behave, the risks that we take change dramatically. Now, there'll be a lot of complaining because of the level of inconvenience that it causes. But that's where prior preparation prevents piss poor planning, which is why I'm always, pushing to build capability, why I'm trying to push interoperability so that we get used to it now when we actually really need to do it. It's just the status quo for us. But I don't want to be in that position where it's like we've got to learn as we're going and things are, shit. Morgan, I really hope they do that too. I fucking love that. Was talking about that before at the start of the stream. Night Room. Salty Mike is a loser. He knows that. Yeah, he's been Evo for ages. I'm Evo as well. He's expressing an opinion. There's nothing wrong with that. Like, that's what I'm doing now. I'm expressing all my opinions too. Red Bear, are you God's gift to Star Citizen as well? Holy shit, we've got a whole bunch of God's gifts to Star Citizen. Yeah, Mike hasn't quit Star Citizen yet. He's taking breaks from it, but he hasn't quit Star Citizen yet.
And I want to make that very clear. Elliot in chat says, I mean, some big trading lanes are going to be from LEO to jump points, as that's one way for cargo that gets between systems. Yes, but I think the issue here is there's not a trade lanes don't exist. So LEO to a jump point can still be avoided. You could still avoid pirates by doing I'm going to go from the LEO to a Crusader L1, stop my jump halfway in between, and then jump
my greatness,
to
Doug.
a jump point, right? LEOs are the like Port Olisar, Seraphim Station, the ones that are locked above a city.
Trade lanes do not exist. Technically, no, they don't. But that's because they're not established as a proper trade lane from the concept that we expect it to be. Low Earth orbit. Yeah, it should be like low planetary orbit or something, but, you know, semantics. Like, are there trade lanes? No, not really. Like, there's no lane that you would take regularly to sell one commodity at. I talk like I think I know everything. I guess the difference is I do. Maybe? I don't know. No, how about you stick around for the rest of the stream and you can tell me if I know stuff or not. Thanks for the follow. The idea behind a trade lane, though, it's one of those things where it's like, you know that goods are being moved from one place to another on a regular basis. Everybody does this. Going from Hurston to ArcCorp could be considered a trade lane if there was enough reason for commodities to move from Hurston to ArcCorp. The idea behind trade lanes that a lot of players expect them to be is that there needs to be some sort of benefit to taking that trade lane. Like the old Quanta videos from Tony. Yeah, I don't know what they're going to call Quanta, but yeah. Honestly, I think the best way for CIG to establish trade lanes is just have security regularly patrolling that particular route and just establish that if you get interdicted along this route, it's either going to be pirates or security. And if you do get interdicted by pirates, if the encounter goes long enough, you could have security show up. But here's the thing though, is like, players could be doing this now, but they don't want to because they don't see the fun in it. They're like, oh no, you know, like I want that dopamine hit. You know, none of the PMC orgs want to do that. Part of your job though, isn't it? Like if you want to provide security, announce to the server, hey, we're such and such org. The route between Hurston and ArcCorp, we're going to be quantum traveling up and down it. If you jump from Hurston to ArcCorp or ArcCorp to Hurston, you may encounter us. We're not going to attack you. We're not pirates. If you need help, we're going to be going along this route. Give us a shout. I think Mike is trying to be a bit too, I wouldn't say political, but I think he's trying to be a bit too open-minded with this. Like, we've been given the answers to this particular thing. These particular scenarios, we've already got the answers. We're just waiting for CIG to implement them.
Yeah, you can create a non-efficient route to avoid. So I find that interesting because you know it takes 10 seconds to do that, right? So I just find the word efficient interesting, not because I think it's wrong. I think it's because I wonder what you guys are, what's spinning in your heads there about efficiency and like, are these things going to be timed and so on and so forth. But I think the people making the missions really need to talk to people about the way quantum travel works or how it's going to work. And I'm sure you have. But at the current point in time, traders very easily can avoid snares, but also pirates can avoid ever dealing with security. So what is the solution? We hand it over to CIG to figure it out, right? That's how I look at it. But the entire way we quantum travel and the way we snare is not going to work. I don't think. Something has to be addressed, changed, figured out.
I agree with this. I agree with this point a lot. Quantum interdiction needs to be addressed. I don't think it's engaging enough. Like with CIG updating the quantum mechanics, quantum boosting and things like that, we need better mechanics to deal with interdicting players when they're moving around in quantum travel. Like the current method that we've got in master modes, it's one of those situations where it's like they had to go down that route for it to work. You know, the dampener preventing the spooling of the quantum drive, which means that the player can't achieve the higher speeds that you get in nav mode. By doing that systematically, CIG avoided a lot of work. But like the methodology of interdicting someone using a snare is way too much based on hope. Like, people call it fishing. I can't stand fishing because I find it boring. And the other reason why is because you're hoping that you get a target. You're hoping you get a fish. Some people find it relaxing. I get that. I prefer something a bit more engaging. So I'd rather go out and hunt. We're missing mechanics. We're missing systems and, you know, the ability to identify potential targets from long distances. If you want to find a potential target of pirate, you got to go there and look. You got to go to the outpost. You got to look at them. You know, you got to go to the locations, ping the area, investigate. I don't mind that. That's not too bad. What I don't like, though, is, as the guys are pointing out in chat, you know, we're playing on servers where there's only 100 players. We only need one target, really. But, you know, like, if there's 10 of us, we're only after one target out of 100 people. That's 90 people that we've got to sift through amongst a huge system, which is why knowing the locations where you can buy and sell stuff matters. But it's also the situation where being able to disperse enough scouts so that you can check those places in a timely manner. Because the other side of piracy that a lot of people don't really think about is timing. Like, it matters. Timing matters. 324 piracy will become, I'm not going to say easier, but we will have more time to prepare ourselves for a piracy attack when we encounter particular targets at different locations. But then again, like with the cargo hauling missions, we're going to be going after targets over a certain size, right? So more than likely, we're going to be setting up snares between planets to hit the cargo haulers that are moving the large quantities of cargo, right? But having good scouts around, looking for those potential targets and calling out, hey, there's this C2 that's full of laranite that's about to jump from Everest Harbor, and they're pointed towards ArcCorp. That tells the crew that's got the ArcCorp snare set up from Hurston to ArcCorp, hey, get ready to drop the snare now. There's still ways of working around it, but being able to find targets, it's a pain because you have to go there and look. Hopefully, the OG looks at fixing that.
I think. And the idea behind what a trade lane is, I think, is what they're figuring out now. And we'll just have to see on that. Yeah, exactly. The routes with extra steps are too effective
please.
to avoid
No need
pirates.
to shout. No need to yell. No need to have a riot.
Yeah, we have to leave it to CIG to figure it out. They're the ones who are the game devs and they understand. And I think that that's where we need to be. But I just think putting out the problem there is really, really good and really, and again, I want to make sure that it's very clear is that I think most of the trading that's done in Star Citizen should not be risky, should not have the opportunity to be risky, but also should not be able to make millions and billions and trillions of credits easily either, right? So whatever they do with cargo missions, we'll see. But I just want to make sure that it's very clear that I am not 100% in the pirates' corner, but I definitely want my heart pounding if I know I'm going.
Not in my corner.
I know I'm going down a risky trade route. I signed up for it. That's what I want to feel my heart pound when I know I'm doing something risky. But I also want to have my moments of chill when I don't want to have my heart pounding, right? That's what I want out of the game. I hope CIG...
Like, you can already do that, though. If you don't want to encounter player pirates, don't trade the most valued commodity. Go for the lower tiered stuff. Like, if you just want a chilled session, you're probably not that concerned about credits either. So just go do the thing that's not as valuable. You're not going to have that, 100% safety, though. The OG has made this crystal clear. There is no 100% safe system. It's like the best that you'll get is 90 safe and dangerous. There's nothing wrong with what Mike wants, though. Like, wanting to be able to play Star Citizen and chill out a bit. Like, you can kind of do it already. It's just not guaranteed. When we get Terra, for example, you'll probably find that you won't encounter any player pirates there. If you do, then they probably won't be in that system for much longer, and you're just unlucky. Like, you can do that sort of stuff. CIG's already thought of this. They just need to implement the other steps.
Understands that I think that's what most of the cargo haulers in the game are kind of looking for, is it's one of those chill mechanics. And I know we're in really good hands with Elliot when it comes to those aspects. It's his bread and butter when he plays video games is this type of gameplay.
Like, you know, we've pirated Mike twice, right? You know about that? If you go to our YouTube channel, you can look up Mic Drop. There's volume 1 and volume 2. So, yeah. We have pirated Mike twice. Mic Drop. You type that in on our YouTube channel, you'll find the 2 videos there. All right, let's finish this video off from Mike, because
So I honestly think that we're in really good hands. It's just a matter of we're not only in his hands, The entire quantum system and piracy and all these things involve a lot more people and a lot more mechanics than just cargo missions, right? So it'll be interesting. I don't know what to do. I don't have any of the answers, but it's very easy to see the problems in the current game, and I look forward to seeing how they change and how they grow. And I think the first step is with the new update in 3.23.2, and we'll just see what happens. But fingers crossed, man. That's all we can do is fingers crossed, and fingers crossed the feedback gets to them and that they can deal with it in a timely manner. But this is Star Citizen, so expecting that is just insanity.
Piracy in Star Citizen is supposed to be hard, and I think his title there was a bit clickbaity. Certainly got me. I kind of get where he's coming from, but at the same time, there's a bit more to it. We're going to be moving into the Spectrum post now. What was it first? We'll start with this one. It's probably better. I can't give it a good introduction. I think it's better that I just share the Spectrum post with you guys, and you'll see why I chose it. There it is. Star Citizen is becoming Star Pirates. I think Star Criminal would be a more accurate descriptor, but hey, well, you get to keep the acronym Star Citizen, SC, Star Criminal. But, you know, that's just me. I don't think the Spectrum post is about the video. This is more a reaction to the state of the game, but there is a Spectrum post. The next one that I'll show actually references the video that we just watched. Star Citizen becoming Star Pirates. The crossed out part says, currently the game rewards piracy and terrorism while shitting on every other type of gameplay, as it fucking should. Get wrecked, nerds. Care Bears. Someone convinced me this statement was not a fair assessment, so instead most gameplay loops provide rewards that are somewhat proportional to the risk involved. Meanwhile, piracy is the only low risk, high reward activity. Not surprising, piracy is the current gameplay meta. Right. Piracy / terrorism. I like how he keeps it, like this person keeps equating piracy with terrorism, because it's the exact same thing. Variable effort and low risk, high reward. Camp any trade route with nothing but a gun and or appropriate ship. Almost no time / UEC investment needed. Where the fuck does ship come from? And how'd you get the gun? You can pick that up from an AI. Shoot a player in the back or soft death their ship because escape is unlikely anyway. If you fail, just try again. No loss than a bit of camping time. Worst case, you spend 20 minutes in Klesher with the option of resetting your reputation. Stolen loot sells for only slightly less than market value. Compare with other common activities. Mercenary, high effort and low risk, low reward. Grind for weeks just to get decent contracts, wasting time on failed missions with glitched NPCs, strip down countless NPCs, and laboriously sell the loot one piece at a time for cut rate prices. You don't have to do that part. Grinding for weeks to get decent contracts, yeah. Wasting time on failed missions with glitched NPCs. Well, you're playing a fucking game that's still being built. If anything, that's not part of the effort. Like, that isn't part of the effort, that's just bad luck. This guy has never done piracy. Stripping down NPCs and laboriously sell the loot one piece at a time. You can get around this by throwing it all into a box and then selling the box at the cargo body centers. You don't have to do that. Bounty hunting. High effort and low risk, low reward. Pay to spend hours chasing down a bounty only to have them log out in Grim Hex. If you do manage to kill them, the reward for it is a pittance. They don't delineate, they should say player because the next one's NPCs. Yeah, like either you're a ship bounty hunter or the other player just got lucky and managed to get away from you. Bounty hunting NPCs, high effort and mid-risk, mid-reward. Not mid-risk. You're going after NPCs, it's not mid-risk. Lighter hazarded areas, completing missions that barely pay for repairs / restocking. Therefore, try to soft kill a ship and hope for decent loot, then risk being pirated while trying to sell said loot. So the loot that they have, the decent loot, like the illegal stuff that they have that's worth a lot, you're not supposed to have that as a lawful player. If you're a bounty hunter and you're taking illegal stuff, you're also breaking the law. It is not high effort to do these missions until you get to the higher level ones And the reason why those are high effort is because the types of targets that you're going after, and CIG is trying to encourage you to work in a group. Industrial, high effort and risk, mid reward. Fuck off. Risk all the hazards of space plus server glitches plus pirates plus murder hobos just to make a moderate profit. Hours of work can be erased in an instant. It's so common that every SC player has a personal story about it. Pirate gameplay isn't counterbalanced by high risk. Just go ahead and rename this game to Star Pirates. You're a fucking idiot. Dead set. You're an idiot. Picard palm, play on face, baby bottle. Not enough there. Here's the thing, and I'll start with this point. Let's assume that this high effort and risk is true. If you know it's high effort and risk, then don't do it. If you're not willing to take the risk, don't fucking do it. If you don't like the reward, don't fucking do it. If you really want to do it and you understand that it's high risk, then prepare for that risk accordingly. The point that I bring up about piracy is only as difficult as what the target makes it for us. If they aren't wearing combat gear, if they don't have escorts, if they don't have turret gunners, then no shit we're just gonna walk all over you. Because we showed up with a crew in combat ships, wearing the right kit, using the right gear, and made sure that we fucking practiced and learnt how to play the game so that we could be successful. Why the fuck should we lose the encounter by someone who couldn't be bothered to even equip a gun? Don't cry about the risks and then go and do the activity when they fucking show up. Variable effort. The fuck does that even mean? Low risk. There are certain things that I would say make piracy's risk lower than what it should be. The lack of long-term reputation based on previous actions. Yes, we can go to prison and just wipe our slate clean and then walk out like we're a model citizen again. It's, you know, mentioned as you're leaving prison. We do need longer term reputation to affect that, but there's other things in the game that we need too, so that we can counter those issues. The high reward part. If you do the most cheesiest way of piracy, like I consider this the most cheesiest way of doing piracy, right? Go and camp one of the RMC outposts, wait until a player buys and fills their ship up with RMC, cap them in the back of the head, open their ship, jump in the pilot's chair, fly down into dead space, get your mate to meet you out there with a cargo hauling ship, transfer the cargo across, go and sell. In the next patch, you won't even need to do that. Grab the ship, take it to the fucking scrap yards, unload it onto the freight elevator, drop the elevator, sell. That's the only time that I consider it low risk, high reward. But then again, you'll probably buy yourself in your little white suit with your tractor beam gun and no actual weapon, buying the most expensive commodity, expecting to make millions of credits, without any friends with you, without any overwatch, no turret gunners, no escorts. Oh, but I don't make enough. Have your friends fucking invest in the cargo load as well. We'll split the profits into shares. The thing is that there are these solutions here that these players can implement. They don't fucking want to. They want to be spoon-fed their content. And to a certain point, that's okay if you want that. If you don't want to go to all that effort, that's okay. But to turn around and tell other people, hey, you've got it too easy, it needs to be harder because I don't like how easy you got it, because I don't want to put any effort into my gameplay, and because of that, you've made things harder for me. I am not in control of anybody else's gameplay. Nobody else is in control of my gameplay. It is the individual's responsibility to take charge of their own gameplay. There are only two entities responsible for your fun in a video game: you and the developer. So when I show up to pirate you, there are only two people that you should be blaming for the result of the encounter if it doesn't go your way: yourself and CIG. And the first person that you should look at is yourself. What could you have done better to make sure that you didn't get pirated? If your first action is to immediately start blaming the developer, you're doing it fucking wrong. Because you've got the tools right now to make a piracy encounter more difficult, more risky. But most players aren't willing to use those tools. They keep going to the developer, going, hey, fix this problem. It's a problem. Fix my problem for me. You got tools to deal with it now. You don't want to deal with it using the tools that we got now. Wait until CIG has actually put those tools in. But Star Citizen is not becoming Star Pirates. That's a ridiculous notion. As bloody Hazard pointed out, this person only knows the part where they get attacked. They don't see any of the planning or the logistics. The most exciting part of a piracy encounter is the time from when you interdict them to where you've boarded their ship and you've cleared it out and you're about to start moving the cargo. That's the most exciting part of a piracy attack. It's also the smallest part of a piracy attack. The biggest time sink now in piracy, it used to be moving the cargo, but now the biggest time sink is gone back to looking for a target to pirate. Finding a target to pirate is the largest time sink that pirates have to deal with. The second largest time sink of a piracy attack is moving the cargo that you've just pirated. The smallest time sink out of all of it is actually doing the attack. That's the smallest portion of it. These Care Bears keep crying about it. We put time and effort in preparing ourselves, getting our kit sorted. If you're just going to show up in a fucking white suit with a tractor beam gun, don't complain about losing the fight when you go up against like several heavily armed pirates who have fucking practiced in combat. Alright, what's the top comment here? I haven't seen it. 182 people have fucking upvoted this too, by the way. Once again, anti-PvP, anti-pirate, militant Care Bear groups making these sorts of posts, supporting these sorts of posts. Tell people you don't pirate without telling people you don't pirate low value posts. Generally, most people meet a pirate once every 6 months. Other than that, they print money profit. Bugs will kill people more frequently than pirates, even when you meet pirates in a game session. He is still correct. Pirates risk very little when pirating. Worst cases, die, wake up in Klesha. Once out of Klesha, wake up at Everest Harbor. Ship is stored, you got all your equipment on you, no money loss, either as you had to invest zero, nothing. Do you know why our ships are stored at Everest and we've still got all of our equipment on us? Because all you fucking Care Bears cried about all the times that you can't fucking tell the difference between a security guard and the fucking Ninetails when they were decked out like a fucking crayon and kept killing the security instead of telling the difference between security and the criminals. And then you get upset that you kill a security, get a crime stack, security would kill you, you would end up in prison and you lost all your kit. You dickheads cried about that. And then we get to benefit from it as criminals because it's like, well, all right, well, we know that we're getting sent to prison. We know what we did. You know, that's the consequence of failure for being a criminal in the game. But we got all our kit back because you idiots complained about it. The hauler you pirated and blew up, he lost days, weeks, maybe a month Alpha UEC farming. He lost the cargo he bought with the hard-earned money. He lost the ship, and because he died, his fully equipment when he died. When he respawns, he needs to claim the ship and buy full new equipment, then spend days, weeks, months, even to regain the Alpha UEC loss you have caused. If all of this shit is important to you, fucking hire escorts and turret gunners. Risk versus reward. If you go and fucking trade the valuable commodities, pirates are looking for you. Right? Mitigate your risk and don't complain that it's fucking not profitable enough. If it's not profitable enough, don't do it. Go and do the next thing that's more profitable that has less risk. Don't take on the most riskiest task, as you guys keep saying, that makes barely any reward, and then complain that it's the other person's fault. Take responsibility for your fun. Don't want to get fucking pirated. Don't want to get blown up. Don't fucking haul cargo. Oh my god. The circle jerk happening in this thread. What should be? The pirate probably did not only do it once. A repeat offender which adds a multiplier to clash of time. Used ship got confiscated by authorities and cannot be claimed. Pirates need to pay a hefty fee after Klesha release to get it back again. The fee goes to the person pirated. I have never fucking liked this concept at all. You got pirated by somebody and you didn't have any sort of assets to fight back with, you should get fuck all. Every Klesha visit adds a repeat offender reputation and punishment increases with it. At a certain repeat offender reputation level, permanent bounty is issued, no landing privileges. Only places to go are Hex, Hollow, and say shanty towns, no city outposts or RNL stations will let you land. You're an outcast, police and bounty hunters will kill on sight and nowhere to go but shady places of the verse. Piracy assume the last two players you killed worked for rough and ready and thus they don't like you anymore. You want access to your home location, hangar for ships, you need a fake ID and ways to enter the city undetected. And this is not some full bullshit I made up, but is how Chris Roberts described the consequences for being on the wrong side of the law. He didn't describe all this. The closest that this person has mentioned that Chris Roberts described was needing a fake ID. Long-term reputation, that should matter. Ship gets confiscated by authorities, cannot be claimed. Guess what? I'm just going to start using stolen ships. Doesn't matter anymore. Pirate needs to pay a hefty fee after Clash to get it back again. Why? It's not my ship. B goes to the person pirated. If that ends up being the case, I will go hunt that person down and I'll get my money back from them. And that's exactly what I will do. I will get my money out of you one way or another. Every closure visit adds a repeat offender reputation and punishment increases with it. Some of these I would be okay with, but there's other stuff that needs to be added first. Like if you're going to increase the repetitions of punishment, so you start adding multipliers, then being able to hide my identity becomes essential. Spoofing IDs, fake IDs, and all that sort of thing. If you have that there, I wouldn't be bothered by half of this. Only thing I don't like out of this is paying money to the person pirated. As far as I'm concerned, you should have fucking cargo insurance, and your cargo insurance should be dictating to you that you should be fighting tooth and nail to keep your cargo. I always get scared by my posts like this because I go, what if CRG reads this and thinks we all think that? I don't think CRG thinks all that. Like there's certain parts here that I'm okay with, as I just said, if the systems are put in place that it still allows me to be able to move around. The reputation system is really what this person wants. This part here, permanent bounty is issued. Probably not that, but no landing privileges. Like the places just don't want anything to deal with you. Or if you go in there, you have to pay up front. Yeah, Nick, CRG has the bloody metrics. It's not going to be that bad. The problem is like, it's anti-pirate, anti-PvP rhetoric. Similar to what we saw over in the fucking Elite Dangerous community. Players just not wanting PvP encounters. They don't want to be subject to be somebody else's content. Like as soon as I see that commentary there, like I don't want to be somebody else's content. It's like, that tells me everything I need to know. And Doug, whilst this is a small portion of the community, getting posts on Spectrum with over 100 upvotes, pretty uncommon. And CIG will take notice of these sorts of posts that get that much traction. Yeah, I don't think that fucking Ref and Ready would give a flying fuck. They only care about their credits. And I'd prefer to move my home location to somewhere not in a fucking system like Stanton. If I can have it in Pyro, that's where I'll have it. Yeah, this guy says, the game is unfinished. Not all systems are there to punish their behavior. That's really what it comes down to. Game's not finished yet, man. But if this bothers you so much, prepare for it. You got the tools. They may not be all the tools that you want, but you got tools. Do it, or wait. So the next one, and this is the last Spectrum post, this might go on a bit. Piracy isn't easy nor profitable, and I'm getting tired of reading how it is. A Mr. Smash. Skill issue? We'll see. There just seems to be endless threads about how piracy is too easy or profitable, and it's getting really old because it's an endless conversation being had by people who've never done it. Or a video from Salty Mike, who I considered the best SC creator largely, yesterday about how it needs to be harder. I was like, man, you guys have no idea. That's the video that we just watched. There's only one bit of the piracy experience that is easy, and that's the 10% of the loop, which is from when the mark is in your snare to when they are disabled. That's it. The rest is more work and less profitable than every other loop in the game. That bit is easy because you make it easy. The guys that trade with escorts or scouts just aren't worth the effort because there are so many other players who just refuse to even trade with a deckhand, let alone escorts. Here's a short summary of the loop. 1. Getting 4 to 6 people together in the right combination of ships to get the job done. So that's a couple of interdictors, a cargo ship, which you can go and get. You still need one nearby. And a couple of fighters/interceptors. Half the player base only own one, and it's either an F8 or an F7 Mark II. The former finally got its nerf in master mode, so it's not that hard to talk people out of those, but the Mark II is just bad for piracy. It has a big signature and can't even scan. It's hard work convincing them that the Avenger Titan/Warlock is a better choice, or just something that, like a freelancer, which is inconspicuous and good for scouting. 2. Knowing how to use Snare Plan, which is a third-party resource. 3. Researching trade routes to try and find varied and effective piracy interactions. 4. Scouting areas effectively so that you can find marks and in a way that doesn't scream pirates to all and sundry. Staying off global chat so you don't scare half the traders off if you have a bit of a reputation. 5. Getting the traders snared outside of armistice, disabling or soft deathing them so you don't lose most of the cargo. Note this is almost impossible since master modes, as you will no longer chase ships to the 90-kilometer ceiling to escape the gravity well. 6. Moving the cargo into your ship, something that traders never have had to do until the next patch, and sell it while dealing with suicide reprisals and bounty hunters. And of course, when you sell the cargo, of which you likely only recovered 30% of, thanks to how egregious I'm not going to bother trying to say that. The losses are of a hard desk ship for only like 70 to 80% of its value. Like, they're not going to like 324 then. You then have to split the profit 4 to 6 ways. I'm in one of the more successful piracy orgs in the OCE or OCX, and I can tell you I made more money running bunkers than I do pirating. The only time it shines is when CIG make a new loop and make it pay 20 times more than what it should, i.e. salvage and sea trading. They're from the guild, the small OCX piracy org. All that being said, you can't really even target 3/4 of the player because they are completely safe loops like mining and salvage. Our only tool, the snare, is mostly useless and only really ever catches lazy or dumb traders. This is going to trigger a lot of space stats, but here it is. Piracy needs to get easier, not harder. We need more tools to find marks, scanning, tracking, tackling, so that it isn't just the poor traders copying it all the time. It'll send a message to people that CIG has been telling them for years, bring escorts and or multi-crew. Unfortunately, at least for the next patch, piracy is going to get much harder with these ill-conceived cargo missions, which is giving traders a way to remove any of their own risk and to cornhole pirates, and it's frustrating that no one is talking about it. Here's what's going to happen. Every trader is going to do cargo missions from now on. Their cargo is worthless to them because they're just chasing a fee, and so they're not invested in it. Because it's marked, who even came up with that nonsense, it's only worth something like 30% of its actual value to pirates. So the trader gets, say, a full load of barrel and is going to get paid 100k to take it to Orison. He jumps and gets snared. Immediately they're going to hit self-destruct. They might lose a mission or 3 seconds of rep, but who cares? The pirates need to race to soft death the ship to stop the self-destruct and risk blowing it up in the rush. Then, if they manage to recover the cargo, they need to load it into their own ship and then unload it somewhere like Brios, which is a whole other risk in of itself, and get 30% of its value. Let's assume that we get a whole C2 worth of barrel. We beat the self-destruct and we manage to sell it. We get 1.5 mil times 0.3 divided by the percentage, or correction, the number of players, but somewhere between below 100k each, and that's probably a best case scenario. Likely the cargo will be worth less to us, not the trader. They'll likely get overpaid, new loop and all, and we'll probably only get 30% of it due to the hard desk / self-destruct. Then add in the opportunity cost of in the time it took us to find the player and successfully take their stuff. We could have just run bunkers or cargo missions and made way more money. Add on to this the complete nonsense being peddled in threads now. Threads how clash time needs to be 5 times as much and only in game time. Not only do you have to spend a week in jail, you need to be at the keyboard for it too. Apparently not playing for that time and not pirating isn't enough, and you should lose your insurance if you lose your ship in piracy. Seems people don't want piracy to be hard, they want it to be flat out impossible. The only bit of piracy experience that's easy is the only bit that non-pirate see is already under player control to make it harder, but you refuse to do it. One Mustang Alpha Scout completely nullifies your risk with RFC trading, yet no one does it. Blows my mind, lol. Instead, people just expect CIG to manage their risk for them. Alright, we got through it. At least we can pirate people again. Who gives a fuck about profit? I'm not sure the act of piracy needs to be easier. I just feel finding people or having more opportunities would be better. Cargo hauling does not pay well at the moment if you do those missions. Not sure if you want to do them unless you are only in there for the gameplay of space trucking. Grammar, what is that? It's 2024. No one gives. Yeah. Right, so come back up to the top. Part of what this guy's talking about here, I wouldn't say is about making piracy easy. They're more convenient. Like this first part, getting 4 to 6 people together in the right combination ships to get the job done. That's not unique to piracy. That's fucking every group. So I wouldn't say that this even contributes to the points of making piracy easier. If you've got an issue with your team only wanting to use those ships, then I guess find teammates who will work towards the benefit of the team as opposed to people just wanting to do their own thing. If you're using an Avenger Titan / or a Warlock, you better hope that you don't come across other players in combat ships, because you're just going to get shat on. And the same with a Freelancer. You don't plan your composition around the target that you're going after. You plan your composition around the threats that you're going to have to deal with, and then introduce the elements that you need to be able to achieve piracy. 2. Knowing how to use snare plan, which is a third-party resource. You do not need snare plan to be a pirate. I know, I was using the Mantis well before the fucking snare plan existed. Researching trade routes to try and find varied and effective piracy interactions. Okay, that's just part of the experience. How else were you expecting to find your targets? Like having to do research? Like, were you just expecting to get a beacon to them? Like, of course you got to do research. That's part of the profession. Like, you don't sit there and go, all right, well, not a mission like bounty hunting or anything like that. Like, piracy is a true emergent gameplay loop, way that we've been pioneering it for years. Scouting areas effectively so that you can find marks in a way that doesn't scream pirates to all and sundry. Like, okay, that's utilizing the stealth mechanics, or utilizing the emission mechanics in a way that you can maintain stealth. But this is just tactics. You're going to have to do that regardless. Getting the trader snared outside armistice, disabling or soft deathing them so that you don't lose most of the cargo. Like, this is a fucking skill issue. That's why you practice. Does this make piracy harder? Wouldn't say so. Like, piracy is only as difficult as well as you train it. It's only as difficult as what the target makes it for us. Moving the cargo into your ship and selling it while dealing with suicide reprisals and bounty hunters. Okay, that's if they want to do suicidal, reprisals, and they want to try and take down your ship. Most of the time they don't. And there's ways of dealing with that. Like, this is why you operate with a crew and you have somebody looking out. Tactics deal with this. These are all things that you do to mitigate the risk that you're dealing with as a pirate. 245 SU of Weevil eggs, holy shit. You guys have got credits for days. Congratulations, Scarlet. You are the star citizen. Morgan, will it be useful in a pirate op with the EMP and dampener? In the current state with EMP? No. With the current state of master modes and quantum interdiction, the dampener will be extremely useful, but it also comes down to how fast the marquee can go. I can tell you I made more money running bunkers than I do pirating. Go fucking run bunkers. Credits realistically don't matter. About the experience, about the gameplay. Piracy needs to get easier, not harder. People keep conflating difficulty with consequences. What I mean by that is that the players who keep saying piracy is too easy and that it needs to be harder, and then they list out all the consequences for piracy. That's not making piracy more difficult. That's just making the consequences for failure of being a pirate more harsh. If you wanted to make piracy more difficult, you would actually be asking CIG for things like more security patrols, security reacting more frequently, the ability to call up AI security to your location within seconds to assist you. And that's why I talk about, whenever I see those sorts of posts like the one that I was talking about earlier about, coming from anti-PvP militant Care Bears, because they're not asking for things to help them. They're asking for things to punish other players. That's all they care about. They don't care about making things harder for the pirates. They care about punishing them. And in this case, they're not asking for things to make piracy easier. They're asking for a higher reward. They want more for the effort that they're putting in now. The first issue, as I pointed out, that's an issue that all groups have. That's not unique to piracy. And there's no way to make that easier. CIG can't make that easier for us. That's on us. Knowing how to use Snare Plan, which is a third-party resource. We shouldn't have to use Snare Plan. You don't have to use Snare Plan in order to be a pirate. But we shouldn't even need to go to a third-party resource in order to be able to set up snares and things like that. We should have those sorts of resources in the game, but it's still being developed. So having that sort of resource, it's more convenient. It'll make it more convenient for us. Will it make it easier? Possibly. It'll lower the barrier of entry to setting up snares. Researching trade routes to try and find varied and effective piracy interactions. That's just part of being a pirate. If you wanted to make this easier, what you'd be asking for is the information to be readily available to players in the game. I've asked for this. I've said that CIG needs to set up commodity trade boards at the TDDs so that we can go and reference them. So that when we're at a TDD, we can see these places are trading these commodities. That would make the researching of trade routes easier because we could see, oh, R-Corp has a large demand for RMC. Hurston has a large supply of RMC. Let's set our snares up along from Hurston to R-Corp. You can do this now. It just takes more time. Scouting areas, that's just part of the skill sets that you need to develop, and the tactics that you use depends on whatever you fucking want to do. What's CIG going to do here? You can already do this now. All they will be doing is increasing the options available to us. This part here, it's a skill issue. We've been able to get targets to chase us up out of atmosphere on Hurston regularly. Takes longer, but they can still do it. You just bait them. Put the QED ship in front of them. Most players don't understand that when they can see the pip light up, they're not paying attention to how far away the target is. So you can normally just dance in front of them at like 2.5 kilometers. They think that they're going to hit you because the pip goes green, but you're able to just like move a millimeter and dodge the incoming fire. And because players get target fixated so easily, you can just put space at your back, space them, you know, hit them with a little bit of, you know, damage to make them, you know, aggro on you, and then just slowly spiral your way up into space. Get them into space, soft death them up there. Or you could just snare them along trade lanes. Unfortunately, the SRV isn't that great for catching ships in the gravity of like the main planets, so Hurst and Microtech. It's not really useful on ArcCorp or Crusader because you can't buy anything on those two planets. Moving the cargo into your ship and selling it while dealing with, like, once again, your tactics on how you deal with this. Like, have somebody in Overwatch. The solutions, we've already got this. And this doesn't make piracy harder, it's part of the risks that you just have to deal with. But this whole section here tells me that they're more interested in the reward being more for what we do. And they that's the majority of their post. They want the reward to be higher for the effort that we're putting into it. For me right now, the reward doesn't matter as much. But, you know, like since 3.18, I haven't had to do missions for credits since 3.18. We've been able to make more than enough credits. Like, it just seems like this guy is expecting to go out, pirate a few targets, and, you know, be just rolling in money. Not the case. Like, you gotta be out there more. Like, completely safe loops like mining and salvage. What the fuck is this going on about? 322, the majority of our targets were reclaimers. Then you got, like, mining is a safe loop. It's not worth going after them. They don't make enough. Why would you go after somebody who's mining to get their fucking shitty rocks when you could hit a fucking salvager that's primarily full of construction, well, not construction materials anymore. Back in 322, construction materials are alright. But the RMC, like, there are points that they make that, you know, we do need. Like, we need more tools to find marks. I agree with that, 100%. Does that make piracy easier? No. Just means that we can find targets. We can find more of them. Our options increase. Unfortunately, at least for the next patch, piracy is going to get much harder with these ill-conceived cargo missions. Their explanation for why this is going to get more difficult. Every trader is going to do cargo missions from now on. This is a misnomer. That is player, not trader. Most players who do cargo hauling aren't traders or cargo haulers intentionally. What they're doing is the thing that will make them the most amount of credits in the shortest period of time. Yes, CIG will probably balance the cargo hauling missions to be extremely profitable to encourage players to do them. Although what we've seen in 324 right now doesn't seem to be the case, so maybe not. The concern that they're bringing up though, I'm not as concerned, but I recognize it. We've seen it all years. Like, 317 was terrible for it, where we would pirate players and they would just initiate self-destruct. We'd interdict them and they'd be like, nah, fuck you guys, combat log. Join a different server, complete their run, which is a huge problem. And all of them don't care. Like, they will do it 100%. 317 is the primary reason why we raised the red flag and why it's still flying and will continue to fly until we get server meshing. After that, we'll be reassessing. But yeah, like, this doesn't change. Like, this has always been an issue. The pirates need to race to soft death the ship to stop the self-destruct and risk blowing it up in the rush. That hasn't changed. That's still the current case now. Unload it somewhere at Brios, which is a whole lot other risk in and of itself. No, that's part of the piracy loop. Not a different risk, it's part of the piracy loop. You could get pirated yourself and you're getting 30% of its value. It's actually 25%, not 30. Could change. Let's assume that we get a whole C2's worth of barrel, we beat the self-destruct and we manage to sell it. 1.5 million divided by 0.3, or correction, times by 0.3, divided by the number of players, okay? Depending on the frequency of finding targets, this will either be really bad or really fucking good. Because the amount that you get out of a target is only one factor when it comes to being profitable for piracy. Frequency of targets matter as well, which they kind of mention, but it's something that's glossed over. As a non-pirate player, there needs to be more for downside death to make it more meaningful, make people not want to self-destruct, make them not want to fight back in a fight they know they can't win. If death meant anything, I'd be willing to stop for a pirate I knew would kill me and just let them take the cargo if it meant I could live. What you're talking about is like consequences of different actions. You know, like self-destruct should be the last option, not the first. You know, if they don't want to fight back, that's entirely up to them. I believe in options. I believe in massive options. Always making sure everybody's got options. So like, if somebody wants to fight back, they can. I wouldn't discourage them from doing it. They just have to accept the consequences of their action. And that's the thing about this. There's concerns that old mate's bringing up here, right? You know, like hard death and self-destructor factors for piracy. They're consequences of not being able to stop the target. Never heard of self-destructing a ship when getting pirated. I've only seen people run or fight. Did you do piracy before 3.18? Because 3.18 they learnt that self-destruct, you could counter self-destruct. When they found that out, they stopped doing it. We still encounter it every now and again. 3.17 was the worst patch for it, man. It was bad. It was real fucking bad. Combat logging was the worst. But if like hard death and self-destruct are concerns, then you develop tactics to deal with it. Instead, this guy's like, oh no, we're not going to get enough. And you know, it's too hard. We need to make it easier. It needs to pay more. No, you just need to get better. And I'm pretty sure we've actually fought these guys before. The guild should be showing up the tooltip. And they got the drop on us when we were fighting them. They showed up all in combat ships, though. They weren't decked out for piracy. They showed up in combat ships. Yeah, like this complaining about the ships, you know, like it not paying enough, all the things that you have to do in order to be successful at piracy. Like that's just what you need to do. At this point here, I always say this. Then add in the opportunity cost of the time it took for us to find the player and successfully take this stuff. We could have just run bunkers or cargo missions and made way more. Then fucking go and do that. Like you're just like the cargo haulers that cry about getting pirated and say, I could have made more credits by running bunkers or doing bloody bounties. Go and do that then. Don't sit there and cry that you're not getting enough credits because things are a little bit too difficult for you. If you're struggling to get people into the right ships for fucking piracy gameplay, probably start there and then work your way through the rest. Been doing this for nearly fucking 6 years. Like none of this is difficult. I can tell you right now, somebody who's been doing it for as long as I have in Star Citizen, piracy is the easiest it's ever been, and it's the most profitable that it's ever been. You don't fucking know. You have no idea. Like, I just don't get the mentality behind this. Like a lot of players are just, they either want to punish players for being a pirate, or they just aren't happy that we can do our loop consistently enough and make something from it. So that was piracy needs to be harder. You know, started with Salty Mike, went into Star Citizen, should be renamed Star Pirates, and then piracy needs to be easier, not harder. What a journey. I can tell you now, there are a lot of takes on the profession of piracy in Star Citizen, and it's just going to keep going. It's never going to stop. That's why we like to just focus on what we can control, which in Star Citizen is being pirates and improving our skill sets to be better pirates. Because at the end of the day, we're all here to play a video game and be space pirates in that video game. And the game is Star Citizen, not a Spectrum Dweller.